The film opens with a monologue by Darwin, who tells us that 9 years have passed since the Great War ended in a great tragedy. Billions of people died as the planet rapidly became uninhabitable. To preserve life, people like Darwin were placed in refuge capsules. It's the year 2041, and Darwin has spent the last 9 years in his capsule. Life in the capsule is not beautiful, it's a small metal space where he is likely to be stuck for the rest of his life, but it's safer than the toxic outside world. Darwin's life is highly repetitive. He wakes up in his chair, gets scanned by the computer system, and is assigned a job. Darwin's job is as a miner, virtually controlling a tractor to extract minerals to be sent to the global government in exchange for fresh food. It's a better life than playing a game all day, every day, for the rest of his life. Darwin is a diligent worker, and he spends his days trying to contact his mother, who should be in another capsule, but he never receives a response from her. In a quick flashback, we see Darwin's mother putting him into her capsule when he was a teenager. His father left just before the bombs fell, so his mother had to make the difficult decision to put him in a capsule and never see him again. While Darwin is in the mine, he spots a dog in the distance among the trees. Confused, he tries to approach it, but the computer system stops him and orders him to return to work, warning him that he can be easily replaced if he disobeys. So, Darwin apologizes and returns to work that night. He is awakened by a massive storm. He looks out of his small window and sees a light approaching his capsule. Then lightning strikes his capsule, cutting the power. An emergency battery kicks in, but it can only power survival programs. Days pass as Darwin waits for someone to repair his capsule, but no one comes. Oxygen purification runs out, and he will have to find a solution soon. A few more days pass, and his system informs him that only 5% of the purified air remains, giving him just 15 minutes to do something with no other option. Darwin decides to don an oxygen mask and step out of the capsule to inspect and repair it himself. He begins to venture outside, but his mask quickly runs out of oxygen, so he rushes back to the capsule, struggling to close the door, which doesn't work. He is then informed that the battery percentage has reached 0%, and the system shuts down completely. Darwin sits down, expecting to die, but nothing happens. He can breathe the air without problems and doesn't get sick. He then picks up a toy his mother gave him and decides to go look for her. Darwin hasn't walked more than 3 meters in the last 9 years, so he struggles to walk properly, but he is determined, starting his journey on a scorching day. He sees birds flying as he walks, but doesn't see any other life nearby. He continues his journey, but his body is about to give in. He hasn't eaten or drunk for days, and the sudden physical activity takes its toll. However, he hears the dog he saw earlier and, as he approaches the sound, he finds a woman named Dara looking at him. He tries to approach her, but she gets scared and runs away. Dara then informs her mother, and the family prepares for the worst. Darwin goes into the forest and approaches the dogs. Dara's mother is at home, and as soon as Lily sees him, she realizes that he is not the police. Since the war ended, the global government ordered everyone to live in capsules, and those who refused would go to jail. But people who realized that the air is clean now have escaped and are living in the forest. Lily is one of those people. She adopted all the children and they all live in the forest, hidden from the government. Her children, Stevens, Susie, and Beth, then come out of hiding, and Lily gives Darwin some food and clean water. Lily tries to talk to him, but Darwin can't respond because he spent 9 years in the capsule and communicated with the system using a keyboard. He never spoke, so he forgot how to talk. Lily says that Darwin is just a lost man, and she offers him a room to stay in. For the first time in years, he enjoys a good night's sleep, surrounded by nature. The next morning, after having tea, Lily, Dara, Stevens, and Darwin sit together. Lily then tells Darwin to use the table as a keyboard and type what he wants to say, and Stevens will be able to understand. With this method, Darwin manages to communicate with Lily and tells her about his capsule and his mother. The whole family believes him and now invites him to play games. Darwin joins in and has fun for the first time in a long while. That night, we see Darwin heading to his mother's capsule and trying to communicate with her. But he is captured by a surveillance drone and asked where he has been for the last 23 days. Darwin doesn't respond, but the drone scans his brain and figures out what Darwin has done. Darwin screams as he tries not to give up Lily, then suddenly wakes up from his dream. The dream was so vivid that it felt real. Dara hears him crying on his bed and consoles and calms him. In the following days, we see Darwin trying to reintegrate into normal life. He starts learning how to take a shower and brush his teeth because he used to be cleaned by a machine. He also learns to communicate better, even though he can't speak properly anymore. He also gets very close to Dara and spends most of his days with her. After a few days, he even starts talking a little with the girl. They seem to like each other a lot, which makes Dara and Lily happy because Dara has finally found someone she likes. Dara's father was selected to repopulate the Earth but hasn't been seen since she was a child. Darwin's father was also selected, but he isn't sure if he's still alive. The next day, the whole family gathers to go swimming in a river on the other side of the forest. Stevens is the best scout, so he goes out first to check if there are any drones. They reach the river, and everyone swims and has fun. Darwin and Dara then go alone on a hill and start talking about their dreams. Dara talks about how before the war, people used to get married, and fathers would stay with the family forever. Darwin tells her that he wants that too. Then, they look into each other's eyes and confess their love before sharing a passionate kiss on the way back. Beth starts asking them to switch scarves because she doesn't like hers, but everyone refuses. She then escapes, throwing her scarf while struggling with Stevens. A surveillance drone finds them and begins to follow them. Stevens then notices that the drone comes from afar and tells everyone to hide. Everyone hides behind rocks and in trees as the drone scans the area. Fortunately, the drone doesn't spot anyone, but this is the closest the family has come to being caught. Everyone is now scared, and Beth blames Darwin for this incident. She says they were probably looking for him and that if he doesn't leave, they will all be captured. Lily defends him, saying it was just a coincidence, but tells everyone to stay in the house until it's safe again. That night, Darwin stays outside alone, and Dara joins him, asking why he's not in his bed. She realizes that he's thinking about leaving and confronts him. Darwin tells her that Beth is right and that if he doesn't leave, he'll put them all in danger. This upsets Dara because he's another man who's going to leave her after promising not to, and she runs away crying. The next morning, Darwin says goodbye to everyone except Dara, who is still angry with him. He asks Lily to tell Dara that he loves her and begins to leave. Darwin decides to continue his mission to find his mother and plans to make the day-long journey to her capsule. On the way, he avoids drones and finds a universal communicator. He then contacts his mother and asks if she's there, and eventually, he receives a message from her. He informs her that he's coming to her capsule and asks her to open the door when he arrives. He reaches her capsule later that day and knocks on the door. He tells her it's really him and that the air is clean, but instead of opening the door, his mother presses the emergency button that summons the drone. The drone scans Darwin and asks him where he's been for the past few weeks. Darwin responds, saying he's been with his mother, and she probably forgot to report it. The drone then asks why she pressed the emergency button, and Darwin says she did it because she heard a voice outside. The drone seems convinced by his answer, so it tells Darwin that he's been removed from the list of missing persons and warns him not to leave his post anymore. After the drone leaves, Darwin goes back to his mother's door and asks her to open it. She finally opens the door, and when he enters, he finds her playing a video game and smoking. She looks very unhealthy, and her mind doesn't seem to function properly. Darwin tries to talk to her, but she doesn't respond. Darwin's mother has spent the last 9 years staring at a screen and smoking. Additionally, she doesn't move, so her body doesn't function. She's essentially in a coma. Darwin tries to convince his mother to come with him, but again, he gets no response. So, he takes her computer and tries to access the security camera viewer. He tries to enter with his account, but he's denied access. Then he logs in with his mother's ID and finds the security recording from the day he left his capsule. He wanted to show his mother that the air is genuinely clean, but he notices that his feed continues, showing him walking through the forest and meeting Dara and her family. Drones have been watching him all this time, but no one came to search for him. He then realizes that every move was recorded, and he understands that the reason no one came is because there's no one left in the world. The world government has collapsed, but some people in power are keeping individuals in capsules, lying to them about the air and scaring them with powerless drones. Darwin looks at his mother and realizes he won't have the mother he knew as a child. He tells her he loves her and begins to leave. Then his mother finally speaks to him, asking if he played Steam Drifters, which was their favorite game. Darwin tells her that he finished it and reached paradise. We then see his mother smiling as Darwin leaves. Darwin tells us that even after knowing the world government has failed, thousands of people decided to continue living in their capsules because they were brainwashed by their time spent there. They don't know any other way of life, so they live and die trapped in a metal tube. Darwin also tells us that many people escaped from their capsules and established a new community. The rest of the world government tried to scare them into becoming their slaves, but no one fears them anymore. The drones had no power and were only seen as birds in the last scene of the movie. We see Darwin returning to Dara. They reconcile, and an older Darwin tells us that she becomes his wife, and they start their new free family.